The door slammed shut, the lock clicking with a finality that made my heart lurch. I froze, my sketchbook slipping from my hands, as Ethan, my impossibly straight, impossibly gorgeous roommate, stood there, his piercing blue eyes locked on mine. In that fleeting moment, the air in our tiny Brooklyn apartment thickened with something unspoken, something dangerous, something I'd been too afraid to name. My name is Zachary, and I'm a 25-year-old graphic designer scraping by in New York City, where dreams are as expensive as the rent. Ethan Carter, my roommate of 6 months, was the kind of guy who turned heads without trying, tall, broad-shouldered, with a jawline that could cut glass and a laugh that made my chest ache. He was straight, or so he'd always claimed, with a revolving door of girlfriends who never stayed long enough to leave a mark. I, on the other hand, was openly gay, navigating the city's dating scene with cautious hope, always aware of the line I'd drawn between me and Ethan, a line I swore I'd never cross. That night, though, the line blurred. It was late, the kind of late where the city hums quieter, and our apartment felt like the only place alive. I'd been sketching at the kitchen table, lost in the curves and shadows of a portrait I'd never admit was inspired by him. Ethan had been out, probably with some girl from his law firm, and I hadn't expected him back until dawn. But there he was, storming in, his leather jacket slick with rain, his expression unreadable. "Zach," he said, his voice low, almost a growl. "We need to talk." I swallowed hard, my pulse racing. Ethan never needed to talk. He was the king of easy banter, of deflecting anything heavier than a joke. I set my pencil down, trying to keep my voice steady. "What's up?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he crossed the room in 3 strides, his boots leaving faint wet marks on the hardwood. He locked the door behind him, a deliberate, heavy click that echoed in my bones. My mind spun. Was he angry? Was this about the rent I'd been late on? Or had he somehow seen the sketch, the one where his eyes stared back at me from the page? "Ethan, you're freaking me out," I said, half laughing to mask the tremor in my voice. "What's going on?" He ran a hand through his damp blonde hair, his gaze flickering between me and the floor. "I saw you today," he said finally, "at the cafe on 7th. With that guy." My stomach dropped. He was talking about Lucas, a barista I'd been casually seeing. It wasn't serious, just coffee dates and flirty texts, but the way Ethan said it, like he'd caught me committing a crime, made my skin prickle. "Okay, and?" I asked, leaning back in my chair, trying to play it cool. "You look happy," he said, his voice softened now, almost fragile. "Happier than I've ever seen you." I blinked, caught off guard. Was this jealousy? No, that was impossible. Ethan was straight. He'd made that clear from day one, with his stories of high school crushes and frat party hookups. But the way he was looking at me now, his eyes searching mine like he was drowning, made my heart stutter. "Ethan, what are you trying to say?" I asked, standing now, my sketchbook forgotten on the table. He took a step closer, close enough that I could smell the rain on his jacket, the faint cedar of his cologne. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice cracking. "I don't know what I'm saying. Zach, I saw you with him, and it fucked me up." I couldn't stop thinking about it all day. My breath caught. This was not the Ethan I knew, the confident, untouchable Ethan who breezed through life like it was a game he'd already won. This was someone else, someone raw and unguarded, and it terrified me as much as it thrilled me. "Ethan," I said carefully, my heart hammering, "you're not making sense. Are you saying you're jealous?" He laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that cut through the quiet. "Jealous? I don't know. Man, I don't know what I am anymore." He turned away, pacing toward the window, where the city lights blurred through the rain-streaked glass. "All I know is that every time I see you with someone else, it feels like I'm losing something. And I don't get it. I'm not supposed to feel like this." I stood there, rooted to the spot, my mind racing to catch up. Was he saying what I thought he was saying? Or was this just another late-night confession, one he'd laugh off in the morning? I wanted to push, to demand answers, but the vulnerability in his voice stopped me. Ethan was unraveling, and I didn't know if I was ready to see what lay beneath. "Ethan," I said softly, taking a tentative step toward him. "Talk to me. What's going on?" He turned back to me, his eyes glistening in the dim light. "I've been hiding something," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "From you. From myself. And I can't do it anymore." The words hung between us, heavy and electric, and I knew nothing would be the same after tonight. The silence that followed Ethan's confession was deafening, a void filled only by the distant hum of the city and the pounding of my own heart. I stood frozen, my eyes locked on his, searching for some clue to what he meant. Hiding something? Ethan, who wore his confidence like a second skin, who never seemed to question himself, was hiding something? "Ethan," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "What do you mean? Hiding something?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he moved to the couch, collapsing onto it like the weight of the world had finally caught up with him. His hands gripped his knees, knuckles white, and for the first time since we'd met, he looked small, vulnerable, human. I sat down across from him, on the edge of the coffee table, close enough to feel the heat radiating from him, but far enough to keep the line I'd always drawn. "Talk to me," I said again, softer this time. "Whatever it is, you can tell me." He let out a shaky breath, his eyes fixed on the floor. "I've been lying to you, Zach. To everyone. About who I am." He paused, swallowing hard, and when he looked up, his eyes were raw with emotion. "I'm not straight." The words hit me like a punch, stealing the air from my lungs. I stared at him, my mind scrambling to process what he'd just said. Not straight? Ethan, the guy who'd spent months talking about his ex-girlfriends, who'd never shown a hint of interest in men, was telling me he wasn't straight? "I don't understand," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You've always—" "I know," he cut in, his voice sharp with frustration. "I know what I've always said. I know what I've let everyone believe. But it's a lie. Zach. It's been a lie for years." I leaned back, my hands gripping the edge of the table to steady myself. "Okay," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice calm. "So, what are you saying? You're gay? Bi? What?" He laughed, a hollow sound that held no humor. "I don't even know what to call it. All I know is that I've been pretending my whole life, trying to be the guy everyone expects me to be. The straight guy. The perfect son. The frat bro who's got it all figured out." He shook his head, his jaw tight. "But I'm not that guy. I never was." My heart ached for him, for the pain etched into every line of his face. I wanted to reach out, to touch him, to tell him it was okay. But I didn't know where the boundaries were anymore. Why didn't you tell me? I asked instead, my voice gentle. I'm out. Ethan, you know that. I would have understood. He looked at me then, his eyes searching mine, and for a moment, I thought he might cry. Because I was scared, he admitted. Scared of what it meant. Scared of what you'd think. Scared of this. He gestured vaguely between us, his hand trembling. I didn't want to ruin what we have. Ruin it, I echoed, my chest tightening. Ethan, you're my best friend. Nothing you say could ruin that. He smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. You say that now, he said quietly. But you don't know everything. Then tell me, I urged, leaning closer. Tell me everything. He took a deep breath, like he was steeling himself for a plunge. Back in college, he began, there was this guy. His name was Ryan. He was different. Quiet. Artsy. Kind of like you. We were in the same econ class, and we started hanging out, studying together, grabbing coffee, that kind of thing. I didn't think much of it at first, but then he trailed off, his voice catching. I started feeling things I wasn't supposed to feel. I held my breath, afraid to move, afraid to break the spell of his confession. What happened? I asked softly. Nothing, he said, his voice bitter. I freaked out. Push him away. Ghosted him. Told myself it was just a phase, that I was confused. I started dating girls, throwing myself into the frat life. Anything to drown it out. But it never went away. Zach. No matter how hard I tried, it was always there. He looked at me then, his eyes pleading for something, understanding, forgiveness. I wasn't sure. And then I met you, he said, his voice barely audible. And it got worse. Or better. I don't know. All I know is that every time I'm around you, I feel alive. Like I'm finally myself. My heart stopped. Was he saying what I thought he was saying? I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. The air between us was electric, charged with 1,000 unspoken possibilities. I wanted to ask him what he meant, to push him to say it outright, but I was terrified of the answer. Terrified of what it would mean for us. Ethan, I said finally, my voice shaking. Are you saying you have feelings for me? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood, crossing the room to the window again, his back to me. I don't know what I'm saying, he admitted, his voice raw. I just know I can't keep pretending anymore. Not with you. The room felt smaller now, the walls closing in as Ethan's words hung in the air. I stood, my legs unsteady, and took a step toward him. My heart was a drumbeat, loud and insistent, drowning out the rational part of me that screamed to keep my distance. Ethan, I said, my voice barely steady. You can't just say something like that and leave it there. What does that mean? You can't keep pretending what? He turned to face me, his expression a mix of fear and resolve. The city lights cast shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp angles of his cheekbones, the tension in his jaw. It means I'm tired of lying, he said, his voice low but firm. I'm tired of acting like I don't feel something when I'm around you. I'm tired of pretending I'm someone I'm not. I stopped breathing for a moment, my mind reeling. This was Ethan, my straight roommate. The guy I'd spent months convincing myself I could never have. And now he was standing here, tearing down every assumption I'd made about him. About us. Do you mean I started? then hesitated, afraid to put words to the hope flickering in my chest. "Are you saying you're into me?" He let out a shaky laugh, running a hand through his hair. "God, Zach, I don't know how to do this. I've never said this out loud before." He took a step closer, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made my knees weak. "But yeah, I think I am. I think I've been into you for a long time." The world tilted. I felt like I was falling, like the ground had vanished beneath me. I'd spent so long burying my feelings for Ethan, convincing myself they were one-sided, that hearing him say this felt like a dream I'd wake up from any second. "Ethan," I said, my voice cracking, "you don't know what you're saying. You're confused. You've been drinking, haven't you?" He shook his head, his expression fierce. "I'm not drunk, Zach. I'm not confused. I've never been clearer about anything in my life." He took another step, closing the distance between us until I could feel the warmth of his breath. I've spent years running from this, telling myself it wasn't real. But it is. You are. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I wanted to believe him, wanted to let myself fall into this moment. But fear held me back. What if this was a mistake? What if he woke up tomorrow and regretted everything? "Ethan," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "this is a lot. I need time to process this." He nodded, his eyes softening. "I know. I'm not asking you to do anything, Zach. I needed you to know. I couldn't keep it in anymore." I swallowed hard, my mind a whirlwind of emotions: hope, fear, longing, doubt. "Okay," I said finally. "But we need to talk about this. Really talk. Not just this." I gestured vaguely at the space between us, where the air still crackled with tension. He nodded again, a small, sad smile tugging at his lips. "Yeah. Okay. Tomorrow?" "Tomorrow," I agreed, though the word felt heavy, like a promise I wasn't sure I could keep. We stood there for a moment, the silence stretching between us, heavy with everything we hadn't said. Then Ethan stepped back, breaking the spell. I should let you get back to your sketching," he said, his voice rough. "I'm sorry for dumping all this on you." "Don't be," I said quickly. "I'm glad you told me. I need to figure out what this means." He nodded, his eyes lingering on mine for a moment longer before he turned and headed to his room. The door clicked shut behind him, and I was alone again, the weight of his confession settling over me like a storm. I sank back on a couch, my sketchbook still open on the table, Ethan's face staring up at me from the page. I'd drawn him so many times, capturing every angle of his smile, the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed. But now, knowing what I knew, the lines felt different. Realer. More dangerous. I didn't sleep that night. My mind was too full, replaying his words, his expression, the way his hand had trembled when he spoke. I wanted to believe him, to let myself hope, but I've been hurt before. I'd fallen for straight guys who didn't know what they wanted, who left me picking up the pieces when they figured it out. Ethan wasn't like them. I knew that, but the fear was still there, whispering that this was too good to be true. The next morning, I found him in the kitchen, making coffee like nothing had happened. But the way he avoided my eyes told me everything had changed. The coffee maker gurgled in the background, filling the kitchen with its familiar hum. But the air between Ethan and me was anything but familiar. He stood at the counter, his back to me, pouring coffee into a mug with a precision that felt forced. I leaned against the doorway, my heart still racing from the night before, trying to find the words to bridge the gap between us. "Morning," I said, my voice cautious, testing the waters. He turned, his smile tight but genuine. "Morning, Zach." "Coffee," I nodded, stepping into the kitchen and taking the mug he offered. Our fingers brushed as I took it, and the brief contact sent a jolt through me. I looked up, meeting his eyes, and for a moment, it was like the night before hadn't ended, like we were still standing in that charged, fragile moment. "So," I said, sitting at the table, "about last night." He winced, setting his mug down and running a hand through his hair. "Yeah, I owe you an apology. I shouldn't have dropped all that on you like that." "Don't apologize," I said quickly. "I meant what I said. I'm glad you told me. I'm trying to wrap my head around it." He nodded, sitting across from me, his hands wrapped around his mug like it was an anchor. "I get it. It's a lot. I've had years to wrestle with this, and I'm still a mess. I can't imagine what it's like for you." I took a sip of coffee, buying time to gather my thoughts. "Can I ask you something?" I said finally, setting the mug down. "When did you know? Like, really know?" He leaned back, his eyes distant. "I think I always knew, deep down. But I didn't let myself admit it until college. With Ryan. And even then, I ran from it. After that, I told myself I'd never let it happen again. But then I moved in with you, and he trailed off, his eyes meeting mine. You made it impossible to keep running. My heart skipped a beat, but I forced myself to stay calm. Ethan, I need to know what you want. Because this," I gestured between us, "this could change everything. And I don't want either of us to get hurt." He looked down at his mug, his jaw tight. "I don't know what I want. Zach." "Not exactly. I just know that I can't keep pretending I don't feel something for you. And I don't want to lose you." "You're not going to lose me," I said, my voice firm. "But we need to be honest with each other. If this is just curiosity or confusion, I need to know. I can't do this halfway." He looked up, his eyes fierce. "It's not curiosity. It's not confusion. It's you, Zach. It's always been you." The words hit me like a wave, washing away the doubts I'd been clinging to. I wanted to believe him, wanted to let myself fall, but the fear was still there, a shadow at the edge of my heart. "Okay," I said softly. "Then what do we do now?" He hesitated, then reached across the table, his hand hovering over mine. "Can I?" he asked, his voice uncertain. I nodded, my breath catching as his hand covered mine, warm and steady. It was a small gesture, but it felt monumental, like the first step into uncharted territory. We sat there for a moment, neither of us speaking, the weight of the moment settling over us. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted, his thumb brushing lightly over my knuckles. "But I want to try." "With you," I smiled, my heart swelling despite the fear. "Okay," I said. "We'll figure out together." The rest of the day passed in a blur, a mix of normalcy and something new, something fragile. We went about our routines, me working on a freelance project, Ethan prepping for a case at his law firm, but every glance, every brush of shoulders, felt charged with meaning. By evening, we were back in the apartment, cooking dinner together, the tension from a morning easing into something warmer, softer. As we sat on the couch, plates balanced on our knees, I caught him watching me, a small smile playing on his lips. "What?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "Nothing," he said, his smile widening. "Just you're kind of beautiful. You know that." I laughed, my cheeks flushing. "Smooth, Carter." "Real smooth." He grinned, leaning closer, and for a moment, I thought he might kiss me. But he pulled back, his expression softening. "I mean it, Zach." "I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." I reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "You're here now," I said. "That's what matters." The days that followed were a dance of tentative steps and stolen moments. Ethan and I were testing the waters, navigating this new, uncharted space between us. Every touch, every glance, carried a weight it hadn't before, and I found myself caught between exhilaration and fear that this was too fragile, too new, to last. We didn't talk about it much, not directly. Instead, we let the moments speak for themselves, his hand lingering on my shoulder as he passed me in the kitchen, the way he'd sit closer than necessary on the couch, the quiet smiles we shared over morning coffee. But beneath it all, I could feel the tension building, the unspoken question of what we were becoming. One evening, about a week after his confession, we were walking home from a bar in Williamsburg, the air crisp with the first hints of autumn. The streets were alive with the hum of the city, but all I could focus on was Ethan beside me, his shoulder brushing mine as we walked. "Zach," he said suddenly, stopping under a streetlight. "Can I ask you something?" I turned to face him, my heart picking up speed. "Sure." He shoved his hands in his pockets, his expression nervous but determined. "What's it like, being out? I mean, being yourself?" I thought for a moment, choosing my words carefully. "It's freeing," I said finally. "But it's also hard. You lose people sometimes, friends, family, people you thought would always be there. But the ones who stay, the ones who love you for who you are, they make it worth it." He nodded, his eyes distant. "I want that," he said quietly. "I want to be that free. But I'm scared. Zach. Scared of what my family will think, what my friend will say. Scared of what it means for us." I reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "You don't have to have it all figured out right now," I said. "And you don't have to do it alone. I'm here." "Okay." He looked at me, his eyes softening, and before I could process what was happening, he leaned in, his lips brushing mine in a soft, tentative kiss. It was brief, barely a moment, but it set my heart on fire, every nerve ending alive with the feel of him. He pulled back, his eyes wide, like he couldn't believe what he'd just done. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't." "Don't apologize," I said, my voice firm. "Don't you dare apologize for that." He laughed, a nervous, breathless sound, and then he kissed me again, this time deeper, more certain. The world fell away, the city fading into the background as I melted into him, my hands finding his waist, his fingers tangling in my hair. It was everything I dreamed of and more, a moment of perfect clarity in the chaos of our lives. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathless, our foreheads resting together as we caught our breath. "Okay," he said, his voice shaky but happy. "That was wow." I laughed, my heart soaring. "Yeah. Wow." We walked home hand in hand, the city a blur around us. And for the first time, I let myself believe that this could be real. That we could be real. But reality has a way of intruding. The next morning, I woke to find Ethan gone, his side of the bed empty. A note on the kitchen counter read, "Needed to clear my head. Be back soon." My stomach twisted, the fear I'd been pushing down rising to the surface. Had I pushed him too far? Had the kiss been too much? I spent the day in a haze, my mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. When he finally came home that evening, his expression was unreadable, and my heart sank. "Zach," he said, his voice heavy, "we need to talk." I stood in the living room, my arms crossed, bracing myself for whatever Ethan was about to say. The note, the absence, the weight in his voice, it all pointed to something I wasn't sure I was ready to hear. But I'd promised to be there for him, and I wasn't going to back out now. "Ethan," I said, my voice steady despite the storm in my chest. "What's going on?" He set his keys on the counter, his movement slow, deliberate. "I want to see my brother today," he said, his eyes avoiding mine. "In Queens." I told him. About me. About us. My heart stopped. His brother, Michael, was a firefighter, a guy's guy who'd always seemed to embody the same macho energy Ethan had once projected. "What did you say?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He took a deep breath, finally meeting my eyes. I told him I'm not straight, that I've been lying to everyone, including myself. And I told him about you, that I care about you. A lot. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. "And what did he say?" Ethan's expression softened, a small smile tugging at his lips. He was shocked. At first. Didn't know what to say. But then he hugged me. "Zach," said, "he just wants me to be happy." Said he's got my back, no matter what. Relief flooded through me, but it was tinged with caution. That's good, right?" "Yeah," he said, his smile widening. "It's good. It's more than I expected. But it's not just that." Talking to him, saying it out loud, it made it real. "I'm done hiding. Zach. I'm done running." I stepped closer, my heart swelling. "So what does that mean? For you? For us?" He reached for my hand, his touch warm and certain. "It means I want to do this right. I want to be with you, out in the open. No more pretending. No more secrets." Tears pricked at my eyes, but I blinked them back, a smile breaking across my face. "You're sure?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Because once we do this, there's no going back." "I'm sure," he said, his voice steady, his eyes locked on mine. I've never been more sure of anything. And then he kissed me, a kiss that held all the promise of a future we were just beginning to build. It was slow and deep, a vow sealed in the quiet of our apartment. And for the first time, I let myself believe in us. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Ethan came out to his friends, his colleagues, his parents. It wasn't always easy. There were awkward conversations, a few lost connections, but he faced it all with a courage that made me fall for him even harder. And through it all, we were together, building something real, something lasting. One night, as we lay in bed, the city quiet outside our window, Ethan turned to me, his eyes soft in the moonlight. "You know," he said, his voice low, "I used to think I'd never find this. Never find someone who makes me feel whole." I smiled, tracing a finger along his jaw. And now, he said, pulling me close. I know I was wrong. I found you, and as I drifted to sleep in his arms, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together. Because love, real love, isn't about hiding. It's about locking the door, stepping into the truth, and never looking back.